Can you spread these out already? Okay. Where is it? Those are not my magazines, okay? I borrowed them. All right. So if you create a new document in InDesign or you start it up, you get this create new, and you already see that you can create certain kind of documents: a print, a web, digital publishing document, a book, a library, and so on and so on. For this course, we're only going to use the print document, but I would encourage you to check out also creating web content and creating the digital publishing documents, because it's very interesting to see what you can do with the program for other subjects as well. Okay, so we're focusing now on print, but I encourage you to check out the other stuff. So if you say, okay, I want a print document, a lot of stuff will look familiar, what it is about. Of course, it says here, intended for print, like I just selected, and it's going to ask me the number of pages. And for this case, for this exercise we're going to do, we are actually going to recreate such a page. And this is called a spread. It means 2 pages next to each other. Okay, that's called a spread. And you see that if I say number of pages, I'm going to make 2 pages, because they're 2 times a size. You have to measure what the size is. I'm not exactly sure, I didn't measure it, so I'm going to do A4, but you should really measure what is the size of this document, okay? Then you see facing pages is on, and that means those pages are next to each other. If you would uncheck it, you have just separate pages, okay? But now we're making something that's connected here, so this is one spread we're going to recreate. Then you create an A4 in my case, because I didn't measure it, but you really need to be exact with the rulers. Check the orientation, so it's upright, portrait. Columns. Well, we know what a column is, right? It's a box boundary inside your document. If you have just one column, it's just one piece of paper. If you create 2, then you're going to have 2. And on your paper, on your ruler paper, I put in an extra graphic which says gutter. And that's the space between the 2 columns. So you can measure that if there are multiple columns, and you can adjust that space between it. Okay? Then if you go on down, margins, that's also on the paper. That's the inner edge of your document. That means that if I just look at this page here, if I look at this page, it has 2 columns, 1, 2. In between here is the gutter, right? And the margin is actually the edge here of the page. So where the text ends, that's my margin. All right? Then you have the page end. Well, that's of course the page end. What page size it says in there, right? Yeah? Okay. And then you have something called the bleed. And it's down here, bleed and slug. You only have to use the bleed for now. If the magazine is finished, I can't see the bleed. Why? The bleed is something that is going over, and as you can see also over the page size, to make sure that if we cut out the magazine, the photo is until the edge. So basically they print it a bit larger, this thing, the magazine, with the photo going over it, and then they cut it off to make sure there's no little white edge around it. You ever tried that, cutting something out of an A4 or that you want to have it borderless? Well, that's how they do it in a print shop. So if I'm going to give the bleed now, it's 0, but if I'm going to give it 5, and I'll leave my margins to this, then you will see the image that we are going to get, or that I put on the other paper as well. And there it is. Hit OK. There's my document. You see this? So this was my margin, this was my paper size, and this is a bleed. So if I have a borderless image here, then I will put my image until there, until the red line. And those measurements are given by the print shop. So it depends on the machine, depends on how they're going to cut it. They will provide you with, okay, I need this much bleed in. Clear? Cool. Now you saw that I only have actually one page. Where's my other page? There. You see they differ? One side, the other side. It's not connected. I can have that if I'm going to make 4 pages. Now it's only trying to give me a back and front pages. And you can add pages here on this side in the panels. And it looks a bit like Photoshop, right? It's kind of all having the same layout. Here are my pages, and I can create extra pages. You see this? So if I create 2, I have a front side, my inner side, and a back side of what is this kind of size right now, if I have these combined. Remember, one page was A4. A3. Yeah, so this is an A3. So if I would print this, I would print a booklet of one A3 paper, and I can fold it, and I have this magazine idea. See that? Okay, so in here I can create my my spread that I want to do. And let's see, what else was there on the list? The columns, the margins, the gutter, the bleed. Don't mind about the gutter, or mind about the gutter, but not about the slug. And you'll see here that in here, this is the gutter between the 2 columns you have, right? Text boxes and wraps. Well, as in Photoshop, you have a lot of tools, and on this side, you have all kinds of tools to create the layout of your document. Of course, there is the arrows with which you can select stuff. And down here is the type tool. And if I take the type tool and I'm actually going to drag a box, it's going to snap to the column, so that's very handy. And now it allows me to put in here some text. But, you know, if I got the whole thing in this magazine filled with dummy text, or with text, and I don't want to type it all over, it's not very handy to do like this. I'll empty it, and underneath here, there's type. There's a menu type. And it actually says fill with placeholder text. And then you're going to get the demo text of lorem ipsum in here. See that? So that's the Latin demo text, which is handy if you just want to create a layout without thinking about the content. So I got one box here now, filled with text. And InDesign is famous for working with text, so you have a lot of options to work with all the text and how you format it and how you are make the layout with other elements in your text, like cutting out some certain parts, or actually, if you have very long text, and I'm going to create another empty text box now in the next column next to it here, there. I'm going to leave it empty now. It's still there. You see. And the first text box, I'm going to link to the second text box. That means they're separate from each other, but the text will run through to the other one. So if I'm going to make the other text box smaller, make it the same size, you'll see that a red plus appears here. And if I click it, I can link it to the other text box. And the text continues in the other one. That means that if I am going to make the other text box smaller, it will become larger in the other one. So in this way, you can put in your text or link it to even a Word document or a text file, and have very precise control about how long texts are and where they are going to be. That's very handy. And of course, you can make these texts with paragraph settings and text settings to any format that you like. You can find these under character here. That's one. Type paragraph, you have all the other options to actually really set the text to lay it out the way you want it. Okay? So if there is an object or an image in it that is going over the text, how to deal with that? If you hold down the button here of the rectangular tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, let's take the ellipse tool, and I'm going to drag in an ellipse. Hold down Shift to make it really a circle. There it is. Now it is nothing because it isn't filled, it has no stroke. So if you have it selected, up here you can see different colors, not that many here, but enough for now, to create a fill. And then, let's see, where is it? Yes, there it is. Under Window, you will see Text Wrap, and you probably know it from Word and sorry, and other tools as well. So here it is, a separate part because it's pretty important. And you will see here now, so this object has no text wrap, and now it's wrapping around the bounding box. So this is the bounding box, the square, or it's going around the object shape. And if you expand it a bit, there you see the shape expanding of where the text is. You see that? All right. So if I wanted to have a title in here, let's put this one a bit down. I would create a new text box with a title so I can really make it separate in its layout. Title of something. If you have it selected and you make it the thing you want, let's make it a bit bigger, and I'm going to pass it out on there. There we are. It doesn't start, or it starts at the beginning here of the margin, but it doesn't end here at the margin. So I can lay it out. If I make it center, it doesn't start at both. But if you justify it here, it starts on the margin exactly, and it ends on the margin at that side as well. If you find it very confusing, all these lines and everything, just hit Command, what is it called? Semicolon? Double punt? Column, thank you. Just a column, Command, column, and then you will get rid of all the other lines. Text boxes are still there. Hit W to see a full preview of what you have. W in your keyboard is like a presentation mode. You can see it directly like the final results. Okay? Okay. So far, so good? Yeah? All right. Now let's look at images and links. So I'm going to put in here an image. And, you know, what was this magazine about?
Pizza.
Okay. Pizza. And remember, if you're going to print something, we talk about sizes and resolutions and everything. We'll talk about it later. So it doesn't really matter which image you're going to take now. If you want images to recreate your magazine, this is your pizza. Is it okay?
Sure.
Cool. I'm going to save it. On my desktop, it's called Hot Pizza. And I'm going to do it the official way now, how you should do it, or should do it, how you can do it. And of course, there are multiple ways of doing stuff in InDesign. I'm going to File, and I'm going to place an image in there. And it could be anything. There's my hot pizza. I'm going to directly place it without looking at any details. There it is. Looks good, huh? Really. It's a bit big, so I'm going to shrink it down. So what you normally would do is just grab the handle here and hold down Shift and just drag it all the way to the end of that column. There we are. So what happened? Anyone? Wild guess?
You shrank only the boundaries, but not the whole image.
Exactly. The whole image is behind it, but I just shrunk the outer box, like the crop, you can say. So if I double click in it, you see there is my full image again, right? So I can move this around inside this box to see, okay, how shall I fit it in? It looks ugly. I don't want to eat it. I'm going to make it a bit smaller then. And of course you can do it all at the same time, but just holding down Shift command and then you can drag and click it, make it directly that size. But now it's easily to say, okay, I got this space for my image. Now I can really adjust it, the crop, to fit in the layout. That's why it's done this way. There it is. My text is underneath it. Should go down. There. This is still fitting. Nice. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Gorgeous. It is. So what would happen to this image if I want to have it at the bottom, for example? I'm going to copy it, paste it in here to the end of the page. And let's see, I'm going to make it that big. There. Oh, so delicious. So, I'm going to print it to the end of the page. Is this going to be alright? No, indeed. Because we need to print it to the end of the lead, right? So in this case, your image should go over the page, down there. And then, of course, the inside of the image should also be there. See that? Now it's going to be almost okay, because here doesn't add up there. There, now it's going to be okay. And if I press W, you will see it disappears, right? Because we're going to cut it off in the end. But for printing, we need it. Okay? All right. These images, you'll see that there's a link, right? This is the icon of a little link. And almost always, sometimes they embed it, but almost always, all the images you will see in such document, an InDesign document, are links to a file. So in this case, I have my document file. Remember Premiere Pro, video editing? It was the same thing, right? There was a project, and then you had your video files outside of it. Same thing here. You have your InDesign file, and the links with all the images are outside of the file. So that means that if you're only going to copy later on today your InDesign file to Dropbox, you're losing your images. Not handy. So they have a nice feature for it, and it's actually called. It's actually used for actually packaging it also for print presses. And if you go to File, you can see there Package. And if you click it, you get a summary of what's going on. You have some options. This is the font that I'm using. It's going to pack that as well. Links and images. It's going to pack that as well. So nice. It's packaging everything. And of course, I need to save it somewhere. What was it? Pizza.
Hot pizza.
What? Hot pizza. Sorry. Don't mind the instructions for now, for the printing instructions. And then it's going to ask me to save my pizza folder. So it's going to copy the fonts that I use. It's going to copy my linked graphics, everything included, and even a PDF for printing in there. So it has everything in a folder that you can reopen it and edit it again. So in my desktop, I'm going to do the pizza folder. Okay. Well, let's check it out, what it did. Pizza folder. And everything is in there. I got a PDF. There it is, my second page. This is my InDesign file. This is another format of the InDesign file. And here are my links. That's my image, the instructions, and the fonts that I use. So everything is in here to really open up the document so anybody can actually edit it or use it. So you can save your InDesign file if you have it on a USB drive and package it. You don't have to package it because then you can store everything in one folder. Make sure you store your images there as well. Or if you're unsure, just package everything and copy that folder. Clear? Nice. Well, that's about it. I think with these things, you can really recreate a magazine, or at least 2 pages of it. Questions so far? No? Alright, then start up your engines, get InDesign open, pick a page from these magazines. There's Trajectum, the high school thing, there's other magazines, pick any, I don't mind. As long as there's text, headers, images, everything in there. And then go measure, go recreate inside InDesign.